Thank you all again for joining today. This is a session with IWIN, the Illinois Work-Based Learning Innovation Network. I'm Heather Penzak here with Ed Systems, Education Systems Center, who works with communities all across Illinois on all things college and career pathways and what it means to kind of figure out what you want to do. And, we're all still thinking about what we want to be when we grow up, right? But one of the big topics right now is AI. And IWIN is very focused on work-based learning. And so really want to start conversations here. This is our second conversation about what does AI look like in work-based learning design and implementation. And so we've had some conversations about this previously, one really kind of official one with IWIN, and today we're going to talk with a community who's doing some of those pieces. So for today, I have a kind of quick inclusion question here for you in a moment, but then we're going to have MJ from the Wilco Area Career Center, who's going to share about the different ways that they're using a variety of AI tools to support their work-based learning across the continuum, really there from career exploration to some of those more intensive kind of internship, career development experiences. If it feels right, we'll do some small group breakouts. If we're all just kind of talking as a large group and that feels right, we'll stay as a large group and continue to do some reflection. But really a piece of this is those reflections and next steps, like what else would be helpful for you all to continue to talk about, to know as we try to figure out this AI world, right? And so wanted to make just a couple of notes here before we fully get started. Okay. As we're building this ideation space within IWIN, is a big claim here is, myself personally, not to speak for the whole Ed Systems team, but I'll speak for the whole Ed Systems team, right? We're not AI experts yet, right? Like we know a lot, but it's a really big space. We have a lot to learn. And really this is just, like I mentioned, a second discussion from in December. We had a robots to the rescue session where we just started talking about this and engaging in some of those language models like ChatGPT and how you could use that. But really want to center our goals for these conversations in this space of really encouraging that culture of collaboration and knowledge sharing, right? Really want to have educators, students, industry partners in here and just exchanging those ideas freely and resources and how you're starting to utilize something or figure it out or where you're having successes and challenges, right? Just really creating that space for us all to share and not rely on any one person or organization to be the expert in this, because this is going to keep shifting constantly, right? And there's going to be new things, tons of apps and programs and all kinds of things created involving AI. But again, would love any sharing of community models and resources. So that's why we're really excited to have MJ here today to talk to you from their perspective within the Career Center, how they're utilizing AI tools and applying that in work-based learning. And within our own student interns that we have here at Ed Systems, we're engaging them to go in AI, give us some insights about some projects they could do in work-based learning, how they think it could help them with work-based learning across the continuum. And so encourage you all to do that too. Gather your perspectives from students, hear what they're saying, what they want to see in using even an AI tool or a project. And so there's lots to learn is what I'll say. But the goal is that we're all doing this together and exchanging those ideas and questions and resources freely. And just a note, I think that we'll be putting up here for a while again. And as those of you who have been engaging with AI, right, it's not perfect. It gets freakily close sometimes, right? You ask it to do something and it gets really, really close to almost what you would have written. But there is a lot that you're iterating on and collaborating with it. And it really does complement us and our own human creativity and expertise. And so we ultimately have to incorporate that and apply that into our overall design or engagement process. So, it gets really close, but we still need us, right? Maybe is the we're not going to be all like humanoids here in the next 10 years, or maybe we will, I don't know. But would love to just have you all kind of put in the chat here, thinking about a scale from 1 to 5. So 1, just not at all comfortable, 5 being very comfortable. How would you rate your current comfort level with integrating AI tools? I would also love to know why you gave yourself that rating and, any questions or things top of mind for you when you're thinking about AI that MJ or others could even respond to throughout the session today. But would love to just get a feel for the room on comfort level and reflections on your comfort level with AI tools. So I'll give you all a moment to respond to that. 0. I like it. Yeah, you're all the way. Appreciate that, Richard.
Honest answer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I see Rochelle 0. But yeah, the 1s, the 2s, right? Like you're aware of it, but haven't used it. I think that's where a lot of us are. Even hosting these sessions, I'd probably still rate myself at a 1, maybe 1.5, 2 on a good day. Yes, agreed. Ginger, lots to learn. And all right. Well, we have, I'm going to turn it then really here to MJ, and I'm going to stop sharing my screen so that they can share theirs. My goodness. And they're going to walk you through a variety of tools. And, what I think you're going to see as MJ goes through this is that there's a lot of different options and things that you could use. And some of them are, straightforward and some of them are more involved. So you can kind of grapple with this as it fits your comfort level. But with that, I will be quiet and turn here to MJ.
Thanks, Heather. So I have, the technology is always changing here. So I've lost my video feed, but can everyone see my screen?
Yes, you're good.
Great. Perfect. So I lost my video, but I've got my audio. So that's good. We'll hope that holds out for me. So good morning. Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate the opportunity to come and, speak on this. I, like Heather, will say that I am certainly not an expert. And I think if someone is claiming that they are an expert, they probably aren't teaching maybe in a public school. They're probably making a lot more money than we are. And, there are wonderful ways for us to implement this, but it is going to be something that continues to change and develop over, the next several years and into the future. And so I think we have to be realistic that, if we are going to implement this, that we are going to constantly be learning with these tools. And they may be something that does outpace where we are. And we really have to just kind of do our best and use the resources that are out there. And some of them will work for some people in their programs and some of them won't. And that's totally okay. I myself, a little background, I am a certified veterinary technician. I came straight from industry to one of our local area career centers in the Chicagoland area. I was a certified vet tech in a vet clinic 1 week, and the next week I was a teacher in front of a classroom of 20 kids who wanted to get into veterinary medicine. So it's not what I anticipated that I was going to be doing with my degree, but I love it, and it is necessary work because we have a very large issue with staffing right now in veterinary hospitals. And so I hope that the work that I'm doing here on a day-to-day basis is helping, the animals and the people in our community be able to receive care from some of these students who are going out and working in vet clinics and working in boarding and grooming facilities and taking care of pets. So, with that, I did not have any formal, training as a teacher. And so I had to develop a lot of things kind of on the fly. I started in the middle of the school year. There was some turnover and I started basically in like November, maybe like 3 weeks, maybe 4 before final exams. And so I had to really kind of learn quickly that there was a plethora of resources out there, but I needed to figure out how to utilize those and implement those in a way that were going to really help me and help my students. And so that was in 2021. And so, that was really kind of the precipice for, AI becoming readily available to us on the internet. And so, I think that it was a great time for me to come into it because I was able to utilize a lot of those different resources to help me streamline my process. I've used it certainly for lesson plan development. I've used it for differentiation. So things that, I didn't know about and didn't learn about in school. And so I had to teach myself and I had to be able to use resources that helped me help my students. And so I do think there is a lot of opportunity for AI to be used for good in career and tech ed and creating, opportunities for students, especially for work-based learning. So because I came straight from industry, the ability to get these students out into clinics that I came from that were struggling to bring, certified veterinary technicians on staff. We're struggling to keep credible and competent veterinary assistants on staff, struggling to keep veterinarians on staff. Because of such a high workload through COVID, more people than ever really had pets, and adopting and bringing pets into their household. Well, that put a very large burden on the veterinary medicine community, and we just did not really have we didn't have an
I'm just gonna
overwhelming
keep it in
amount of
my
staff
hand.
before, and so then we had to really figure
All
out
of them.
kind of how to um, you know keep and retain those staff members that we did have. And so it was very important for me, even in my first year, to make sure that those students were able to get out into work sites around our community, to be able to gain on the job experience, and then be able to practice what they were learning here in the classroom environment. It really clicks better for them when they are out actually practicing in a real world environment. So last year was my first year to implement a career development experience for my students. We have a 2-year program, and so our second year students are able to go out in the second semester, and for anywhere between 60 and 100 hours. If you are joining us from here in the state of Illinois, it is a 60-hour requirement for a college and career pathway endorsement, to be able to go out and gain, working real life working experience at a clinical site. So 60 hours was my goal last year. I had 14 students who went out, and they were able to gain about over 1,200 hours of working experience. So we certainly surpassed that 60-hour mark. Our goal for this year is 100 hours for each student, and I have 24 students. I am certainly anticipating over 2,500 hours of career development experience for my students this semester. So, it has been really meaningful to them, and it really does light me up, and continue to give me the drive that I need to see them when they come back from their work sites and have really experienced great things. But for me, it's very cumbersome. It is definitely a lot of front loading on the making those business and industry connections, following up, providing the work sites with paperwork that they need, to understand their legal obligations, to understand our obligations here at the Career Center, to assuage their concerns about liability and insurance, to really just to new program, or to new businesses that have not ever heard of our program before, because it is still fairly new, and we are fairly small, so it's something that not everyone in our feeder districts have even heard about, just introducing the program and marketing it. So there's a lot of front end work that I have to do to be able to get these students into work sites. And so what I was able to really do better between last year and this year was implement some of these artificial intelligence programs that are out there and available, to be able to streamline that process for myself. So, I really do feel like AI really has this potential to, personalize each student's, abilities and skills, and really connect students with a site that works for them, that gives them an authentic experience, that really helps them with what they're going to do with this classroom experience after graduation. My students are seniors, so they will be graduating at the end of this semester. So I want to make sure that this capstone, experience for them after spending 2 years here at the Career Center, really gives them something that they are going to be able to utilize after graduation, whether that is a part-time job and they're able to, save some money between now and starting college in the fall, or whether that is, an opportunity that they didn't know existed to them before, and maybe changing the course of, what they decide to major in. I think that is all very beneficial, and utilizing, the AI really helps me have more time to spend with those students and give that one-on-one, counseling and things that I can do to support them and meet them where they are to be able to ensure that they are, actually having a genuinely positive experience during that. It also helps the industry partners that I'm collaborating with reduce their time. That's one of the biggest things in vet med right now that, we do have this shortage. There is a lot of hesitancy to, spend time that they may not have during the working day. Overseeing my students on site. And so by, reducing their, commitment by hopefully streamlining the process so there isn't any confusion, being able to provide them documents and, give them access to resources that really reduces how much time they have to spend on the paperwork part of things and more time on being able to, develop that student's abilities on site and work on their essential skills, work on their technical skills. That mentorship is more meaningful because that is really what the students are there for, and so being able to give them that. Is really important. And then I think for students, I am honest with my students that AI is a resource that I use. I think there is still some, hesitancy to, talk to students about it. I think that there is going to be that for a little while. But, the reality of it is that students are going to walk into the workforce after graduation, and their, company and their, boss may be utilizing these resources as well to develop things for their own business. And so the reality is these things are, the cat's out of the bag. And so we have to really understand that embracing it is going to be a much more positive way than, acting like it doesn't exist. And so it is not surprising to me that a lot of people have said, like, I haven't used it. I don't know anything about it, right? Because I still think that we have a long way to go in making it something that is not taboo, and making it something that, like, it's just another resource in our tool bag as instructors, as mentors to these students, to be able to utilize and help us help them a lot more. So today I really tried to focus on Illinois' continuum of work-based learning. And so part of that continuum, in addition to obtain that college and career pathway endorsement upon graduation, not only is there the 2 years of related curriculum, so that is what they receive here when they come to the Career Center, is 2 years of concurrent curriculum. It's an elective program, obviously, for them. And so they come here, they're able to develop their skills in welding or culinary science or culinary arts, fire science, early childhood education, right? We have to provide them these professional learning opportunities. So today I've really just tried to highlight some of the ways to utilize AI for some of these different professional learning opportunities. And the first set of that really is these career exploration activities. So these are things that we're already all hopefully doing for our students when they are considering, a particular career pathway. So, this could be as simple as having a guest speaker come into your, class and give, an overview of their job. This could be a field trip out into, a site that those students may not have had any opportunity to experience on their own, right? And giving them access to talking to those career professionals already that are on the ground and doing the job, and giving them the opportunity to see the facilities and to see the different, opportunities that are available at that particular site. And then, career fairs. We are planning to career expos here at our career center. We hold 2 every spring semester. And again, it is, and this is open to our juniors and our seniors, but again, it's for those seniors who are potentially about to graduate. Hey, I'm looking for a part-time job for the summer. What kind of entry-level positions are there in the area? And we invite, upwards of 60 different businesses and industries, whether it's one of the local trade unions with any of their pre-apprenticeship programs and things like that. Um, and some of our local colleges that, our dual credit is able to help them with. The other part of, that college and career pathway endorsement is, in addition to these professional learning opportunities and the curriculum, is that dual credit opportunity. So we have a lot of dual credit available here at Wilco.
I because I opened the window. The
And I
lights
think
running
that
off the
that really
floor when I walked
is
in. I
very
know. It's
important
just sometimes
to,
it's nice when it's cold out. I like
the opportunities that they are going to receive after graduation with that diploma. And so regardless of whether they go on and, go to a college program with some of those dual credits that they received here, at Wilco or not, they need a resume, and some of them are going to be benefited by having a cover letter. So all of our students will provide professional resumes to our career fair participants that day. So we'll have 3 professional resumes printed for each student, that if they connect with somebody authentically during that career fair, that they're able to, submit a resume right there on site. And then that business or industry professional has that contact information for that student. So I think that is a daunting task, no doubt, when you have maybe, 150 kids in your program, to write individual professional resumes with them. That takes a lot of time. Like it's a very time consuming process to edit those and review individually with each student what their experience is, what their individual set of skills are. Do they have individual certifications? Will they receive any certifications professionally through your program? Do they have outside awards and activities, sports that they've been a part of, right? So, that's a very individual document, right? And so it's time consuming to produce. And so, Indeed has a wonderful, like easy built-in templates here. So, you can pick, anything that really honestly, represents that student. I feel like these are great, nice, easy to read. They obviously have, a variety of formats and fonts available. So you can, pick one for your students and have them utilize the one that you feel like represents your program the best. Or you can also utilize, let them kind of have that individual choice and give them that opportunity to maybe express themselves a little bit through this. And it should be a representation of themselves, right? The easiest, way for them to build this with AI is there's some skill building that you can add in here. So if you have, particular skills, so I'm a veterinary technician, so I have some veterinary restraint skills. I'm able to build that resume really easy, and have a very nice downloaded template for a professional resume. So that should really help, at least get a jumping off point for a rough draft, right? It doesn't keep you from having to go through and edit and work with those students about where, what kind of education do you really want to, put on there. Obviously, you're going to put your career, experience on there at the Career Center. You're going to put your information about, being enrolled in dual credit classes, right? Using those buzzwords is very important, and making sure that we've got, some action verbs in there and things like that. And so for me, though, at the Career Center, it's been absolutely eye-opening to me that we don't really talk about this at a high school level for any other, course. And so, these kids have never really read resumes. They've never maybe even seen a resume. And so that for me was really, I'm like, oh, they have nothing, so that's just not part of curriculum in most other, programs. So that is really up to me in my program for them to be able to, come up with a nice professional resume that I would not be embarrassed for them to submit to any job or, career development experience, externship, internship, apprenticeship program around town, and them say, hey, I'm from Wilco. I really want that resume to be something that is a good reflection on their experience here. So utilizing just some of those easy resume builders is a very great place to start. And then, for my students, I really want them to be able to personalize what skills they have. So I had veterinary restraint available on my resume, right? Well, I want to tell that particular clinic that they're going to work at, what it is that they are able to do and what can they actually do, in that clinic for them right off of the bat. And so being able to, add that cover letter really gives those students an opportunity to, let's open that here. Let's see here. Okay, so utilizing Grammarly has been great. It's free. And it does, so let me see here. Wilco Vet Assist. I have veterinary experience with cats and dogs and exotic animals. So my students are going to be able to tell these jobs that they are going to, what they are looking, for, maybe from, this is a great opportunity to, this is a great opportunity for them to be able to really highlight what they've done here in 2 years in our, in our career program. And so what kind of responsibilities have they learned in the classroom? What kind of essential employability skills have they worked on? They've really worked on teamwork. They've really worked on communication, especially written and verbal communication. One of the biggest things that I get in terms of feedback from my community partners is that these students are very phone averse. They are very shy answering the phone. They're, this is the texting generation, right? And if it's not, I guess, in a Snapchat, they're not really interested in talking. And so they really do not have great phone skills. So one thing that we really focus on is making sure that they are comfortable being able to pick up the phone when it is ringing at the busy vet clinic. And so, how can they convey that to one of those, clinics before they even have that opportunity to maybe have an in-person interview? And so, the cover letters, the personalized cover letters has been great. And it really, when we started just from last year to this year, I did not necessarily have them write cover letters last year to their, potential internships. And this year it made that personalization and that they had that extra, introduction and kind of about themselves and what they were really looking to get from that particular site, right? So they had to do some research about that particular job. They looked at the posting, whether it was on Indeed or, through Facebook or wherever the clinic was advertising that they were hiring from. And they were able to really give that extra step that the clinic was able to say, like, hey, like this student really does look like they would be somebody who would work out really well here. Let me take that next step and interview them, either in person, over the phone, or have them come in for a working interview and actually see about their technical skills. And so, Grammarly, this was just a great way. I put very little information in there, and it's able to give me a really robust starting point. Again, this could be a rough draft, right? And then that student is going to be able to go in there and hopefully personalize that to some of their additional skills, some of their what they are looking to learn from that site. So just gives you a nice, template to really kind of start from. It's sentence starters, like these are like, it's like, oh, I didn't think about saying it like that, and hey, that sounds like a better way for me to, kind of market myself, than maybe what they would have come up with on their own. So, something that I think is really, just takes it that extra step beyond having, that professional resume, is having that cover letter that goes along with it. Some of the other career exploration activities, that we have here at the Career Center, obviously lots of guest speakers. I think that's a very easy commitment for a business or an industry partner to make, is just a 1 day event where they come and talk to our students. It's pretty low risk, right? They're able to sometimes bring some of their swag and things to kind of advertise their company a little bit. So they have a pretty captive audience. It's usually a good time. You do have to be able to do some planning on your part, though, as the instructor. And so being able to have an idea for that guest speaker to understand what their audience is a great thing to kind of focus them, because they don't always know, and they certainly aren't always working with students in a high school setting, right, or a younger generation. So giving them some guidance on like what to expect that day. And so using Chat GPT, you can pretty much come up with any sort of scenario that you'd like that career industry person to be able to come in and focus on that day during, a guest speakership. So I just put in very simply, for one of our welding program classes, to help plan a career exploration activity for a student enrolled in a welding class that's having a guest speaker in from the local pipe fitters union. Very common. All of our trades unions like to come in and talk to these students about their apprentice programs. And so Chat GPT within seconds was able to help me, as a welding instructor, right, plan a career exploration activity for my students. They gave me a step-by-step plan, right? They give me the objective of that. This should be something that I am able to provide to that pipe fitters union, right? Here, hey, this is our objective. We're going to try to give career insight in this field. Great. We want you to connect with them. So how do I, kind of plan out that guest speakership? This is such a nice way. It even gives you time frames here, right? So it shouldn't take longer than, 10 to 15 minutes to introduce them. You really have that opportunity to hand it over to them. Hopefully take a little break for yourself that day during class, right? And allow this guest speaker to really feel like they can connect with those students. So I'm going to tell them, hey, ahead of time, I'm going to say, hey, I really just need you to provide me a brief, overview of the different careers that are available within the pipe fitting, local union here. Talk to me about, the different skills and qualifications that these students are going to need for those different roles. Talk about the different industries and the sectors that your skills are going to be in demand, right? Where are you going to actually be able to get a job? It's one thing to go through the apprenticeship program. What's the real reality that these students are going to be able to get a high paying job after that? I think that gives them a great place to, formulate some answers, have those, ready to go. So they're not standing there in front of a room full of 30 kids looking at them and going, everyone's going to be at a different level, right? Just give them those, guidelines and help them kind of present their, information to these students. Make sure that, this speaker knows, how to really present their career to these students. And then easy, quick Q&A, right? At the end, just like we'll have at the end of today, what kind of, questions. And this could even be, right, a list of prepared questions that, you have in case those students who, oftentimes are kind of shy when you've got somebody new in the classroom, may not feel, like speaking up or, in front of the class, that you can kind of prompt them and be able to come up with that. So it's super easy to, come up with. And then maybe, especially in the case of of the welding, or in me in veterinary medicine or in culinary, right? Any of our programs that are here at the, Career Center, how do we maybe say, hey, be ready to do a hands-on demo for these kids? Like that's what they really want to see, right? So they want to see a professional who's able to, in this case, set up a weld and walk them through one of the basic welding techniques. So if that's something that works, in your program, great. If it's something that needs to be on a smaller scale, that's also fine, right? And it really just gives you that step-by-step lesson plan, to be able to show them, at the industry professional level, like, hey, this is kind of the plan for the day. And that really should give them a lot greater incentive to come and continue to speak to your students year after year, because they know that you're prepared for them, that you can kind of step in and provide some interactivity and make sure that your students are meaningfully engaging with them. So that is just an easy thing to grab off of GPT for any guest speaker that's going to come into your program. And then going out into, the field and actually having a field trip, like logistically, like we know that there's lots of things that we need to do as instructors to make that a successful endeavor. And, it can be very cumbersome, right? To get all of the field trip forms and all of the things back that we need, right? But then it's like, well, once we're there, like what's the purpose? How do I keep those kids on track when we're there? And so, this is an easy way to use. This one is called EduAid. This one is like a teaching specific AI. So this one actually has EduAid has lots of different opportunities for lesson planning, differentiation. There are all sorts of games and things that you can just add your spin to based on what your unit is or what your topic is. And so using EduAid, I was just able to come up with a really quick law enforcement quest. So let's say that we're going to, the local police department, and we're able to, utilize kind of a scavenger hunt kind of feel, right? Or these kids are just, they all love the escape room kind of idea. So you could do something like that with that. Really just to kind of make the field trip a little bit more interactive. I feel like sometimes we go and we expect it to, they're just like, ooh, new. It's great, but like they also need a task to do when we're there sometimes, just to kind of keep them on task. So, you could kind of pick any of these things, right? From this particular document that EduAid came up with. But like, I feel like during the quest, it's really just about that interaction. So I love this one for the police department structure. Students will explore the organizational structure of a police department and understand the different roles within the force. Like they don't necessarily know all of the different, roles that are going to make that, particular place run. And so really they just need to learn about the hierarchy of, policing, and what does the chief do? What's the captain do? What's that detective do? And maybe giving them the opportunity to kind of mock, role play with some of those actual industry professionals will really kind of get them into, that field experience that they're getting there. So there's all sorts of ways that you can really kind of, tie that in. And, some are going to work better than others, no doubt, but you really have to decide, like, how do I keep my students engaged, and how do I keep that industry professional, or that business or that organization that we are visiting, seeing my kids at their best, because if they don't see them at their best, they're not going to, likely have you back in the following years. And this is all about creating sustainable things for your program, right? And things that you can really implement for years to come for these work-based learning programs. And you really want to set up, experiences that are going to be meaningful for the students, but you also want to set up things that are going to be able to be, relied on for you in the future. So you don't have to do this every year. So really being able to kind of have that. And I think the reflection part of, the field trip is always a part that it's easy to forget, you know, by the time we get back, and making sure that everybody's able to, you know, get picked up and get back on the bus or whatever it may be. You know, that reflection portion of the field trip, I think, is really important. And why did we take that trip, and what was the impact on you and your future, you know, potentially in that career. So, you know, being able to come up with those questions or come up with those activities that help them reflect on their experience. So you know that it was a meaningful trip and not just a day to get out of class.
And MJ, I'm gonna just take a moment. I saw there's some shout outs for EduAid and a
Great.
request about kind of playing with some of the sites together. So I
Yeah.
wonder, I know you have a ton more to share for like team-based challenges and career
Yeah.
development experiences, but I wonder if we pause here
Sure.
before we kind of move on there. If anybody's been in those links that I've been putting in the chat, I've been sharing it as you kind of go along, or has
Great.
questions before we keep going.
I'd love to.
Thanks, MJ. I really wish I would have had the Grammarly cover letter thing back when I was applying for jobs.
Yeah, no doubt, right? And I think the nice thing about that is, you know, it's you personalize it, right? And they realize, you know, and for some of my students, they're like, well, I don't have a site, you know, set up yet. And it's like, okay, well, then we craft one that's pretty generic, right? Like,
Mhm.
then we kind of, you know, make things where, okay, I can add things down, but you make a generic one that is able to be utilized for multiple different, you know, sites, right? Like, so I think the idea that, like, it doesn't have to be 100% personalized for each, you know, each site, and just having something that is, hey, I can send this out in different emails to different places,
Mhm.
really allows them, you know, and they've never seen a cover letter before. They've never seen a resume before for the most part. And so, it's a great way also to give them maybe like one good one and one okay one and one really bad one, right? Like, you're just like, okay, this is, you know, this is what you don't want to do, and this is what you do want to do, you know, because again, they've never seen that. And so they don't have any reference point for that for the most part.
Mhm. Mhm. I'm curious too, like Antoinette, you put in that you love EduAid. Am I saying it right? EduAid.
Yeah.
Is there ways that you use it, Antoinette, or others that might be using it? Or again, any questions before we kind of keep moving here?
Yeah, I just did a presentation to my teachers on gamification, and one of the teachers suggested it to me, and then I started playing with it, and I could not believe the things that I could do. It was just, I went on and on. So I just started showing it to other teachers and things. I think it's very underutilized.
Totally. I agree.
Yeah.
It's on my list to go play around with after this for sure. Do you have to like pay or be a teacher to get
There-
access to it?
You do have to be a teacher. So you do have to have a, you know, a educator's email. And then, you know, I think there's a limit on how many you can really, like, how many documents you can really, you know, generate. Whereas ChatGPT, not, you know, you don't have a kind of a limit on that. Grammarly, I think you may end up, you know, with a limit. So some of these, you know, they give you a great introductory period, and then you've got to really decide, like, is that something that, like, I found value in enough that maybe you talk to your administrators and see if that's something that they can, you know, come up with, you know, putting into, you know, maybe other, you know, teachers in your community can also benefit from that, right? So, you know, there is that point where you have to kind of decide, like, is this something that is worth me paying a subscription for and implementing, or did I not get enough out of it that it really is, you know, and I can find one of those, you know, free platforms to utilize instead.
Yep. Well, I wonder, I don't see other questions, or if there are questions now, but maybe, and sorry to give you 5 minutes here, MJ, I know you have a lot, but I'll
Yeah.
send out this whole presentation
Great.
so you all can click through these links and run through them. But I wonder, I'll give you like a challenge of 5 minutes, and then we'll just kind of do some
Yeah.
reflecting and
Well,
some other questions.
if anyone's planning on going to IACTI, I'm presenting on team-based challenges and how to kind of integrate those into, you know, a CTE program. And so, you know, I think for team-based challenges, that one is a very industry specific, you know, piece of this, right? And so I this one was a new one to me as I was, preparing for this presentation, but Google now has their own AI generator. And so it's called Bard, B-A-R-D. And so Google Bard, that one was a great one for me to learn about for the first time for this. And so it's going to be one that I continue to implement now that I know about it as a resource. But it was very easy to input some just keywords there for my specific industry. And then I was able to kind of narrow my focus. And then I was able to, look and see what kind of, for culinary, let's say, right? I think I put in, regionally, I was looking for a regionally relevant, which is B, terminology. I'm narrowed down what kind of small group I was going to set this up for. They're enrolled in a culinary class. I was specific to, Google Bard here. I told them where we were location wise. I think that helps with that regionally relevant aspect of things. And it's able to kind of, focus its search a little bit more. We were looking for diversity, equity, inclusion in local chain restaurants. So I gave them, that I gave, Bard that kind of parameter for it to generate its response on. And it was able to come up with a team-based challenge straight up for me. It gave me the research that those students were going to need to be able to integrate, how were they able to maybe come up with that solution, and then what could their presentations and their actual deliverable be. Obviously the key to this is including your industry professional, right? Like you have to be able to include that industry professional in this, team-based challenge. And so, how do you thank them after they have participated, right? Like they've participated in this, culinary challenge. These kids need to learn to write thank you notes. I think we've just gone to the thank you via text. And, so I make sure that my students write a thank you note to every, guest speaker that we have, every industry professional that walks through the door and spends time out of their busy schedule with us here at the Career Center. So being able to, write a thank you note is, time consuming in and of itself, right? But how do I, make that a little bit easier on myself, right? And then how can maybe my students personalize one, and then my industry professional gets 25 thank you notes, and makes them think, hey, I'm going to really go back to that program because those students were really grateful for, me taking my time that day, and it's going to really pay dividends very easily about, thank you for coming for our culinary class, right? And that makes it, so much easier for you to be able to, just send out and put a stamp on, have one of your, I have a great team of ladies in my office, right? But I'm able to, stamp these, send these out, and really remind those industry professionals that they are very, we are very thankful for them, to interact with these students for sure. And then, last but not least, I've got career development experiences. So if you're looking to implement an internship program, if you're looking to get these students out into work sites, how do you get that information across to your industry partners? So making sure that you are providing them that information ahead of time, what their expectation is for those students on site, right? And so sometimes that's just making those connections and actually finding a place that that student can go to be able to complete that 60 hours of, work experience. Or once they're on site, how are they going to hold these students to, the same standard over and over again from year to year, right? And creating maybe a rubric for them to be able to, keep those essential skills standardized, to keep those technical skills standardized, whether it's, Joe training them or whether it's, Gina training them, right? That everybody on site at that particular site is using the same standardized rubric to be able to, judge them and their development in that, time frame on. So AI has a entire section of rubric creation. So if you're not using, AI for rubrics yet, it's definitely a time saver for sure. And you're able to just come up with those, standards and make sure that everybody is sticking with that. And then again, that reflection journal, right? Whether it's the career, exploration activity, whether it's the team-based challenge, or whether it's their career development experience, I think we really have to remember that career reflection for the student is where it impacts them and how we meet those needs for them, going forward for additional, experiences for these students. So journaling is a big part of mine, making sure that they go back and they journal on a weekly basis about what they experienced at their site that week, what skills they, worked on, what skills they still need to develop, what things they feel like they mastered. And that way, I'm able to see how they are, progressing. My administrators are able to see how my students are progressing at these sites, and we can find, real value in that information and that data that we're getting back directly from the students. So that's another GPT one that's really, really easy to do. And then I feel like, where are we at, Heather? Do you want me to kind of wrap it up here? I said certainly try to find, something linked from today. So it sounds like EduAid was definitely one that, people have used. I really would encourage you to start with ChatGPT, more than anything. That one is free, very easy to access, and you really can start to learn how the, AI robot really, alters what you put in. Sometimes, it's more, the more specific, the better. But also sometimes you kind of get, maybe down a little bit of a rabbit hole. So sometimes you kind of start general and see what it comes up with, and then kind of change those answers as you need, for sure. So there's definitely some, practice makes perfect with it, for sure.
No, thank you so much, MJ. And thanks again here for sharing your contact info. I'll share this whole kind of slide deck out to you, but I wonder if we just stop sharing for a bit and open up the room, because we have about 8 minutes or so here about questions. If you've clicked into any of those links or want to chat through what you're kind of doing in there, or other things that you all are up to too. If there's other AI tools that you're using that you'd love to share how you're using and what's been great about them. Maybe it's like another 1 to 5 check too. On a scale of 1 to 5, are you 5 feeling better, or 1 still totally overwhelmed and like, what's going on? Or 0, maybe there's some zeros still.
Right. Well, I told you, Heather, like, I think when we originally talked about this, you're like, let's do like 3 to 4. And I was like, oh no, once I got into it, it's very difficult to narrow it down to 3 or 4. There's a lot of different, sites, and there's a lot of different ways that those individual sites might be used. So while one might not work for you for that particular something, another might. So there are a lot, but they don't all work for the same thing.
Mm-hmm. We have
It's
Rochelle
incredible
feeling
that there's a
better, so
tool
that's good.
specifically for rubrics, because in our last session in late 2023, that was a comment that we got from a lot of instructors, that they just really struggle to create rubrics and to finalize those details. And we ended up doing a mini session, like we went into breakout rooms, and one instructor was saying, yeah, this is my challenge. I need to make rubrics. And we tried doing it in ChatGPT, and we got some really, we after some prompting and
Yeah.
tweaking it a little bit, we got a good rubric out of it. But this is super awesome, and I'm going to make sure to send this particular link over to that instructor that was with us. And she was like, oh, we've been meeting with this as a school for weeks now to finalize these details. And if we had just put something into ChatGPT and had a starting point for those rubrics, it would have made those conversations go much quicker, instead of having to do the laborious work of thinking of what to put in each box before having all those conversations to finalize the details. So I know that this will really, the rubric tool in particular, will help a lot of folks that came to last session.
That's awesome, Dania. And I mean, yeah, I don't know how to write a rubric. Like I've been, judged on a rubric, but I've never written one from scratch as a certified vet tech, So I mean, like that was not in my job description. And so then they're like, hey, like your kids have all the, and I'm like, oh no, I don't know how to do that. So for me, it's been great, to be able to, again, maybe that's not exactly what I want, but it gives me a base for me to go off of.
Mhm.
Antoinette, I saw you go.
Did
Okay.
did I hear that this is going to be a topic at IACTI?
I'll be at IACTI presenting on team-based challenges. So I did,
Oh.
I just printed my, the IACTI presentation schedule came out yesterday or the day before, and I saw that there was some AI specific topics. So mine's not at IACTI. I'm just talking about team-based challenges, but I am going to talk
Oh.
about how to implement AI in that team-based challenge development. But I did see IACTI had some AI specific presenters next week.
Great, thank you. I'll recommend it to my teachers.
Yeah, absolutely.
And Richard, I love your comment. I think for a lot of us, we are using AI and we don't even know that we're using it necessarily. I think it's, with everything that is new, you're like, I have no idea what that is. And then you're using it every day, all the time,
Yeah, absolutely. No, that definitely is. I'm so glad that you joined us, Richard. That's so great. I'm really, I feel kind of like, I'm across state lines. Very cool.
I will share, and please, if you have other questions, let's keep chatting about them. But just for everybody's time, I don't have a registration link yet. We're kind of getting everything confirmed here, but there's really great JFF, Jobs for the Future. If you're not familiar with them yet, they've launched this. Part of their labs, they have a Center for Artificial Intelligence and the Future of Work. And so we have two of their kind of lead people here who are going to talk about that, right? AI and the future of work. So save the date, but we'll send out, you all attending this mean you're on the newsletter for IWIN now. So we'll send this out, but just wanted to get that save the date for you. If you want to put a hold on your calendar, it should be a really, really great conversation with them. But just putting that up there, and then want to say a big thank you to MJ. You're doing really awesome stuff, and it's exciting. I think what I was so excited for you to share was like the spectrum of tools that you're using, right? Ones that are like a resume builder, and then kind of like more intensive with students too, right? To build up those experiences. So just excited to keep learning from you and appreciate you sharing today.
Oh, thank you. I really appreciate you. Like I said, this is definitely, this is my going into my third year here. So I'm just scratching the surface of, the resources that are out there and available to us. And I think there's one, every day that, kind of pops up and you're like, oh, wow, that's a new thing. So we're going to learn with it. And I think that that presentation that you're going to have with IWIN, Heather, is going to be, these kids are going to go out and they will see AI in their workplaces, so embracing it and not being scared of it is going to really show them that we are evolving with the times and that we're not scared to, implement new technology and implement new resources. That makes us look like modern teachers and allows them to connect with us in a way that maybe, we didn't have before.
Agreed. And I'd be curious to the group too, what could be helpful for another IWIN session? Like, would you love to focus on just one tool? Again, the EduAid that kind of came up a couple of times, or focus on something else? Or would you like to have a whole other conversation about AI? If you have any thoughts, we would love to know them. If you want to put them in the chat or share them out loud. We're just going to keep this conversation going because, to your point, MJ, we're just scratching the surface. We're still figuring it all out. But you're getting lots of thank yous and shout outs here too in the chat for the walkthrough that you did.
Nice. Thank you so much, guys. I appreciate it.
But please let us know what you'd like to chat about next. It can be as specific or broad because you might not even know necessarily what you want to chat about next with AI, but we're here to keep the conversation going.